Hello there, I hope you're well. Welcome to this, the very first episode of Soundtrack of Your Life. So you might be wondering, as you've clicked on this show, what's this all about then? Well, we all like music, we all like stories. So what if people could have the opportunity to talk unabated about songs, tracks, theme tunes, soundtracks that meant something to them? Songs that they go back to again and again because they're linked to people, moments, events in their lives, and to share their stories about how the songs, acting as anchors, were formed. So for those of you that are unfamiliar with the term anchoring, it's a term from the world of neuro-linguistic programming, i.e. NLP, where you essentially associate an internal response with some external trigger. So a typical example is the first dance at a wedding. So when the song is played at a wedding, the couple takes in everything around them at that point in time, like the atmosphere, their family, their partner. And then when they hear the song somewhere else afterwards, it makes them think of their first dance. So I was thinking we could extend this to any emotion that we feel. You know, what song makes you happy? Which one makes you cry? Which one reminds you of your college or university days? Which one makes you feel 10 feet tall, etc.? Because I believe we've all got stories to tell when it comes to certain songs, bands that we instinctively connect to, or songs that make us connect to our favourite football team. So I wanted to create this show to give you the platform to share your stories behind your songs. So if you want a comparison to shows that are already out there, then in the UK you might be familiar with Desert Island Discs, where celebrities and famous people come along to talk about what song, album, book, object that they would take to a desert island. And in America, you've got James Lipton with Inside the Actor's Studio, where he asks them questions that are a bit away from their sort of professional life, and he gets to ask them more about themselves. So, Soundtrack of Your Life is literally about the songs, music, theme tunes, soundtracks that have formed anchors in your life to various people, scenarios, events, and emotions. So this is where you come in. I want you to be a guest on the show because I bet you've got stories to tell that centre around music in your life. So let's get sharing. There's a link to a sign up form in the description or comments or somewhere on this place that you're watching or listening to this to, where you can sign up and register interest with me and we can get your own show set up. My first guest on the show is the brilliant Jill Kelly. Jill is a psychic medium by trade and has got a storied background in music, from teaching kids the Beatles and Bob Marley at school to learning guitar and performing in front of crowds in a matter of a fortnight or so. Jill's got so many tales to tell and share, which made for a great hour's worth of conversation that you're about to watch or listen to. In the description for the show, Jill has also shared the soundtrack of her life, which are tracks that represent moments and people in her life, complete with links for you to experience, enjoy, and be inspired by the songs yourselves. So as you're listening or watching, please do like, comment, share, subscribe, all of that good stuff. And above all, enjoy the show. Hello and welcome to the first ever Soundtrack of Your Life podcast with myself, Vishad Doshi, the Mindset Transformer. I am so excited and pleased to have on the show as my guest, Miss Jill Kelly. Jill, if you'd like to say hello to everybody and introduce yourself.
Sure. Hi, everybody. I'm Jill Marie Kelly. I am a psychic medium and Reiki practitioner, but in previous lifetimes, for 20 years, I was a preschool teacher and I was also a music teacher. So I am super excited to be here because music is like so important to me in every aspect of my life. So I'm excited to be here and talk about it.
Thank you, Jill. And look, for those that will continue to tune in and listen to the show, this we'll have a kind of agenda, but to be honest, it could go anywhere we want it to. The main premise of the show and the guest is to literally share stories about the world of music, and that could expand into albums, songs, theme tunes, soundtracks, whatever the person and the guest would like to share, whether that also then involves linking it to emotions, linking it to people, linking it to moments in their life, whatever it may be. So the whole point of this is for people to share and enjoy and maybe even inspire. You might hear of a song or a band and go, oh yeah, do you know what, I remember those moments. So Jill, might as well just start off with a basic line question of like, what is about music that resonates with you?
Oh my God. Well, I grew up listening to music. My father loved like Simon and Garfunkel, like 60s stuff, 70s stuff. My mom was really big into Queen. I had a teenage male babysitter when I was a baby girl. So the first song I ever uttered was Another One Bites the Dust by Queen. My mom said I had my fork and my knife and I was doing this on my high chair going, Another One Bites the Dust.
Okay, who doesn't do that still nowadays? I think we all do that when that comes on, right?
Right, yeah, knife and fork, Another One Bites the Dust. But yeah, so I grew up in the 80s and 90s. I remember when my mom would gather us all around. I have two older sisters, and we would watch Friday night videos before MTV was on. And Friday night videos my mom would record, and then we would spend Friday nights like on the couch, like the pull-out couch in the couch, and then we would all fall asleep together. And then the next morning, my dad would bring in like McDonald's breakfast, and it was just like this tradition.
Amazing.
I remember this was like when I was 3 years old, like 2-3 years old. It wasn't when I was older, but I remember my earliest memories have to do with music. Like, it's just what and my parents had a very eclectic taste. My sister Jennifer, my eldest sister, wound up to be a concert pianist, and she taught me how to sing. I was singing harmonies by age of 4. I don't know how, because I've talked to people that are like voice people or like singers that are professional, and they're like, I can't do spontaneous harmony. But I was in choirs as a kid, and I could jump to the soprano part, I could jump to the alto part, I could sing the tenor part. Like, I could just hear it in my head.
Wow.
And without looking at any music, like I could just jump and do it. So when I was in college, actually, I directed an a cappella group before it was like Aka Awesome, before like Pitch Perfect and all the other things that made it cool, before Pentatonics came out when it wasn't cool. But yeah, so I would, because we couldn't hire an arranger, and now they probably have an app for arranging music for a cappella groups, but I would listen to the song and I would pick out the parts, and I don't even play the piano, and I would teach the parts to each section, the basses, the tenors, the sopranos, and the altos, by singing it. So like, I just had an ear for it. I had an ear for harmony. I can like, somebody's like sings a song to me and they're like, can you come up with the harmony for this? And like, I'm right there. Like, and many voice majors that I had in college that were in my a cappella group hated me because they had to learn it and like play it on the piano and sing it a couple times before it just clicked in. So yeah, harmony singing was always, and I love that. And it's funny because to this day, when I perform, or if I perform, I'd rather be the backup singer than the person singing the main tune, because it's just comfortable for me to sing like really good backup and like match the person's voice as much as I can. So
that's amazing. I mean, what a story journey, even just there, about having the natural ability to pick out certain ranges and the ability to then communicate that to people. It's one thing knowing it yourself, but then for others to experience that from you, to advance their own understanding. And hey, look, some people feel that it's something you can learn. Some people think it's instinctive, you're born with it. Many of my music,
I think it's a little bit of both. I feel like it's a muscle that you need to exercise. And I mean, just for an example, I remember when I was 5, my sister had one of those like little stereo recorders with one of those wire mics that like super little. And she's like, sing Castle on a Cloud. And I was like 5. I know the cassette is somewhere, but some cassette somewhere in the house, there's a voice of me at 5 years old singing Castle on a Cloud from Les Mis. And yeah, so like, and then my dad always brought us to Broadway. So he would actually go travel to London. Actually, he would see a Broadway, London play, like that was kind of cute. So he saw Phantom in London first. He saw Les Mis in London first. And then he would come home and he would take us to the shows. So I remember going to Cats when I was 5. I remember Starlight Express, which people don't even remember, was like a roller skating like
Yeah, I
train.
remember.
But
Yeah, I remember
yeah,
that.
and like Phantom is my favorite. Miss Saigon really resonated with me. I loved that the music in that one, and it's just like I just grew up around music. I just grew up going to performances, seeing concerts. I remember I was at a Whitney Houston concert when I was 4, and I fell asleep on my dad. And like I just, and that's what I remember from that concert was I was exhausted. And my dad is 6'6". He's a very tall man, and so he's got big hands. And I was a little girl, and he would just hold me, and I just pass out. But like when I hear like Whitney Houston music, I'm like, oh, it's so sleepy.
Perfect.
Just,
So, just, I mean, just on that, you mentioned, Whitney Houston and Queen and that. Are there any specific bands or artists that speak to you, and what is it about them that
well,
inspires you?
I can't not like talk about my friend. So Tom Petty, like I love Tom Petty. I love everything about Tom Petty. I love all of his music. And so I'm gonna tell a little story about. So I had music in my life growing up. I was in choirs. Like I said, I was in the a cappella group in college, but then I sang the national anthem at like major functions for school and stuff. Like that was kind of my jam.
Nice.
And that was the one time I would solo, and I'll be like, I'll sing the national anthem because it means something very much. Like it's a very sacred song. It's also a really hard song to sing, by the way.
I know
the American
it's
national
underestimated.
anthem,
I think.
is like, yeah, the range is really big to sing that, and like I always had to start really low so I could hit the higher notes. But so my friend Hoagie, he passed away in April from pancreatic cancer, but like 6 years ago, he was taking me to open mics. And he's like, he's like, you need to perform again. You need to perform again. And I'm like, Hoagie, I'm like 40 freaking years old. Like, I'm not going to get in front of people and sing. And he's like, come on. He's like, and so he would sing in the open mic, and I would just jump up and sing backup. And I didn't know his music. He liked Martin Sexton. He liked, Tom Petty was one of them. But he just liked this. He loved the Grateful Dead, which I never got into as a kid. Like, that was never something I listened to. So I started singing backup for him. And he's like, no. He's like, 2 weeks. You and your guitar, you're going to sing at the open mic by yourself without anybody else. And I was like,
oh, shit.
Okay. So and I didn't know guitar. He's like, you have an acoustic guitar in your basement. He goes, I remember it from when we were kids. He's like, you're going to learn 3 chords. You're going to sing 3 songs, and it's going to be by yourself in front of everybody. And I was just like, do we have to?
Thanks for that.
So like at 40 years old, I was learning 3 chords on my acoustic guitar. I sang 3 songs. I sang a country song. I sang 1,000 Years by Christina Perry. I sang a bunch of like 3 songs. Yeah, like they were 3 chords, and those 3 songs had those same 3 chords, so I didn't have to learn more than 3 chords. And I got up, and my sister was really sweet. The one that taught me how to sing, she came and she sang harmony with me to 1,000 Years to like calm my nerves a bit. And it just so happened that open mic, there was a Christmas party, so nobody could hear me anyway because it was packed with people.
Wow.
But because of that, because my friend Hoagie was like, do this, I started taking guitar lessons. Then I was like, well, I'm a preschool teacher. I wonder if I can bring music into the classroom. And then I got certified as a Music Together teacher, which is all theory-based. It's a company that's global. And so I became a music teacher for kids. And I did that on the weekends, but it was all because Hoagie said to me, 3 weeks or 2 weeks, you are going to perform 3 songs. And it just opened me up to more music than I could ever imagine. And then
Wow.
Hoagie was like, okay, well, you're good. I'm like, well, thank you. He's like, let's do a duo. Let's play out. Like, let's play restaurants in town. Like, let's do bars. Like, let's be an acoustic duo.
Wow. He
And I
sounds
was
very like driven here. He's like, he's trying to.
Totally.
He pushes you on and on,
music.
right?
He loved music, and so we did. We started. Our band was Jill and Hoagie. I thought it should be Hoagie and Jill because I was singing backup, but it was his acoustic guitar and him, and then me just singing harmonies and a lot of Tom Petty songs like Wildflowers and Walls and You Don't Know How It Feels, and like all of these songs that people really love to hear when they're at the bar, like people that are like, oh, I love that one. And so we played out for a good 3 years, and then it was just amazing. And I got introduced to the music scene in my town and in New Jersey, in northern New Jersey where I live, and met a ton of people. And unfortunately, Hoagie passed away in April, but if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't have been so obsessed with, performing and doing things again. And so now our friends that perform invite me on stage to sing harmony. So it's just like, it kind of just all full circle, like came back to, where I was before. And I'm actually going on vacation on Thursday to Vermont at a music festival that I was invited to. And I got the set list in the mail, and they put me on to sing a couple songs. So I was just like, I guess I'm performing at a music festival now. Like,
sure are. I'm sure he's looking down going, see, I started all that, you see. And I'm sure he's proud
exactly.
the way you're going. I mean, it just sounds like such a great time to get to grips with not just an instrument, but, your own confidence, your own range, and the fact that, you kept on going. It wasn't just 3 songs. Then you went on to more events. Now you're doing a music festival. Now you taught it to children. I mean, can you give us more about that, about teaching that to kids?
Sure. So I had my guitar, and actually when I was playing with Hoagie, I would play for my 4-year-olds first. And if they didn't like it, then I'm like, we're not singing this one. So my 4-year-olds were my gauge. And so I started asking them what type of music they like. And then I was like, all right, you know what? I'm the teacher, and they're 4. So I gave them like Beatles songs and Bob Marley and Tom Petty. And so I taught them Three Little Birds, which is the Every Little Thing Is Going to Be All Right song.
Yeah.
So I taught them that one, and of course, all of them at Christmas time wanted guitars. So instead of their parents buying them guitars, I just bought like inflatable guitars, like blow up guitars, and gave them to all of them, so they could jam out and pretend, because they would take blocks and like xylophones, and they would pretend to play guitar with it. I have videos of this. So I taught them Three Little Birds, and there was this one little boy, Eli, who actually, he really loved Yellow Submarine. So I learned Yellow Submarine on guitar, and we sang that one too. And that's such a great kid song because it's so silly. And
it really is.
So this poor Eli was 3.5, not quite 4 yet. He wasn't potty trained, and when he would take a nap, sometimes he would have accidents. Right. So I woke him up in the middle of a nap so he wouldn't have an accident, so he wouldn't be embarrassed when everybody woke up from naps. So one day, of course, I forgot, and he had an accident, and I checked him before everybody woke up, because I didn't want him to go through that. So I was like kind of pissed at myself, and I was like, oh man, like I have to change him. And it was like all clothes. And so I brought him to the bathroom, and I'm like taking off his shirt, and he sees I'm frustrated. Like, kids pick up on that stuff. And he grabbed both my hands. He goes, Miss Jill, every little thing is gonna be all white. And I was like, oh my God. And I was like, not only did he use it with the correct context, but he sang it. He held my hands, and he looked in my eyes and was like, it's okay.
That's amazing. There you go. The power of that one line, right? I mean, everyone knows it, but as you say, when you have a 3 to 4 year old saying it back to you, I mean, this is literally, that's the power, it's incredible.
Yeah, standing there in his wet clothes, the poor thing. But so like, I was asked by my director at graduation when my kids graduated preschool and they were going to kindergarten. She's like, can you sing? Like, can you play guitar and sing? And I was like, yeah. And then like one of my parents also played guitar, and it was his son's birthday on St. Patrick's Day. So we learned all these Irish songs, and of course we were going to sing them. It was literally the day, March 17th of 2000, whatever, COVID hit. That was the day our school shut down for COVID.
Oh.
So we planned this whole concert for the parents and the kids for St. Patrick's Day, because I'm Irish, well, among other things, but so we were gonna like play guitar, like dual guitar, and sing with the kids, and that was the day we shut down. And I was like, oh man, like that would have been so fun. But Christmas carols, Kwanzaa songs, Jewish songs, all the songs, like we sang all the holiday songs for the kids. And I would write music just based on the tunes of like Mary Had a Little Lamb or Twinkle Twinkle. Like I would write, like I wrote a Moonface song, which I can give you a little snippet.
Okay.
Because it's the new moon tonight. New moon, waxing crescent, first quarter, waxing give us full moon, waning give us last quarter, waning crescent. These are the phases of the moon. Like, that's what I did for years.
That's amazing.
And like sing, and then like the parents of my kids are like, why does he know the moon phases? Like, what? He's 4. And I'm like, because
he's in like astrophysics at school or something. Like, no, it's just a little reworking,
I mean, and I actually got a text message from a parent that I haven't seen in 5 years. Their kid is like 10 and a half or whatever. And I this woman at work, when the kids were scared of thunderstorms, we were like, okay, what music can we sing to them? And she came up with the song, when hot air meets the cold air, it goes boom, like that. And when hot air meets the cold air, it goes boom. And then like the kids got into it, and then they weren't scared of the booms anymore. So like I literally got a text message the other day. She's like, "We're sitting inside at camp. It's thundering out, and Riley is teaching everybody the boom song." And I was like,
the boom song. Someone should record that and put it on like, you know, the top 40 or whatever. Or Billboard. I guarantee you'll make a fortune out of this. Or I can imagine these kids in like an exam room where they've been taught like a principle or a method, and they're singing songs out loud. You know, was it like the you know, the wrist bone's connected to your elbow? You know that one. And it's like, you know, what's going on? You're meant to be silent, and you're all singing away. And it's like, look, this is
true. I mean, that's what people associate. It's so easy to remember when you put it to music. And these kids were 4, so they're not reading yet. But if I made a book and I laminated every page, whether it was like 5 little pumpkins sitting on a gate or whatever, you know, little rhymes that, you know, we do at Halloween, or I would make little books and they would say it as they were turning the book pages, which is the foundation of reading. So if they have the song in their mind and they're turning the pages and they're looking at the words, like I taught reading, I taught a bunch of stuff, but I was a Montessori teacher out of college. So I learned the Montessori method, and then I went into the daycare and used Montessori a lot. And a lot of her philosophies in the daycare. But yeah, it was awesome. And the kids, like, you learn, like, there's that quote. What is it? Children sing before they talk, they dance before they walk. You know, like, art is the foundation of humanity. And like, it's just such a truth. Like, they dance, they sing, they do all these things way before they know how to read or write, or way before they know how to walk, or like, that's just what, you know, drives us. And so getting back to that and teaching that and letting kids, you know, have fun and like learn things as they are singing, like, who doesn't want that? Like, everybody knows the ABC song. Everybody knows Mary Had a Little Lamb. Everybody knows Row, Row, Row Your Boat. Like, it's just like, but if you can make it educational, like, why the hell not? Like, my parents, they're like, "Jill, you need a YouTube channel just for the music that you've written for kids." And I'm just like, it's just, I don't know. Maybe one day.
Well, honestly, like, look, even think about it now, right? When you think back to your childhood or teachers, which ones come to you first? There's going to be typically 2 categories. Ones that bloody made your life miserable. So, you know, the strict ones, or the ones that, you know, you just couldn't relate to. They were so... you know, flustered by all the rules and like all that. But really, the ones that you had fun with and you connected with, who made, you know, introduce things like music or a unique creative way of learning, where you know, you're in a place like a classroom where you either want to be there or you don't want to be there, depending on the teacher. At an early age, it's like, you know, if they, you know, used, as you said, song or dance or creativity, like, they're the ones that you learn off, enjoyed, and who stick in your mind. I can think back exactly to, so in England, we go up in primary school to like year 1 to year 4, which is, I guess, I think 1st to 4th grade in America. And I happen to have the same year 4 teacher and year 6 teacher. So same teacher in 2 years. And his methods didn't change between the two. And looking back now, like, you know, we had lots of creativity and fun with him in terms of learning things, but at the same time he balanced it with the serious side of things, and that you know, helped us grow. But even I remember he would even talk to us as if we, you know, were older than the primary school children that we were. And he just thought that you know, later on in life, you know, you hark back to those kind of experiences when you got that grounding, the learning and the enjoyment. Much of what you've said so far is just so much enjoyment that, you know,
it's just fun.
It is fun. And actually, you hark back. You made a really good point about the fact that music and dance appeal to our natural basic instincts.
Yeah, it's like animalistic, like
exactly. Yeah. Sounds and movement. You know, there's a lot being said at the moment about how dance is so, like, you know, people have a hang up about can I dance? Am I technically good? Do I look good? But it's like, well, in the most basic of ways, you know, just starting off with the rhythm of tapping your foot And then, whether you then do like a dad dance or something in a club,
right.
Not that kind of example, but it's like, it's just movement gets you going. And then, there's so much more talk days about how it's good for your health, physical health, and then with that comes the mental side of things, self-esteem, confidence. And
music, it accesses every part of your brain when you're singing, when you're dancing. Also, being an energy healer now, like learning about vibration and frequency is like all the science behind it. Like it's so interesting because like they're saying singing raises your vibration. So if you're ever scared or you're in a room where you feel the energy is dark, start humming something, start singing because that raises your vibration. I know we talked about this in the past where like they found out that birds singing actually helps the trees with their processes of oxygenation and all that other stuff. Like music, and the one thing I always taught my kids before, two things. One was, what do we do to all instruments before we play? And that was tune them, because I told them you can't touch the guitar unless the guitar is ready. And then the other thing I said, what is music? And I had all of them yell it at me. Music is vibration. And I'd say, do we hear it or do we feel it? They're like, we feel it first and then we hear it. And like I got like a whole generation of kids that said that. And I was like, if they learn anything this year, like they'll learn that music is vibration and we're supposed to feel it before we hear it. And like I was reading Steven Tyler is like, I love him. I love Aerosmith. I love all their music. His father was a pianist and he would play under the piano as a little boy and feel the vibration of the piano. And like that was how his basis for harmonies and stuff came about. Like in his book, I read it and it was just like, the littlest things that when you're a kid, there's the smallest bit of exposure to music, to how it makes you feel, to the fact that, when you feel sad, or you can get sad if you hear a song. Like you could be in a great mood, you turn on the radio, it's a really sad song, you're like, shit, now I'm depressed. Like it's just, or you're in a really bad mood and you turn on a really happy song. And I know one of your questions was, what song do you relate to happiness?
Yeah.
And being that I grew up in the 80s, Katrina and the Waves, Walking on Sunshine.
Oh, that's a belter. That's a proper belter.
That one. And the reason why is because it's my mom's favorite song. And when it came on, and she would always be in the kitchen. She'd always be cooking something. My mom would literally, like a little kid, because she got married when she was 19, so I think her like maturity level stayed there. She would bounce around the kitchen cooking and dancing and make all of us dance and like grab our hands and like have the wooden spoon and like we'd rock out and like I told and I learned this when I was a music teacher, that your parents' relationship with music is going to seriously affect your relationship.
100%.
So, like, the fact that she would dance around to Walking on Sunshine and sing it at the top of her lungs and belt it, like, that was a great memory. And every time I hear that song, that's what I think of my mom just being so happy and bouncing around and dancing with all of us and being silly, So, like, if you can be that for anyone, if you could be that with your friends, if you could, like, go to a bar and sing karaoke and be like, this is my song and I'm going to sing Respect by Aretha Franklin because it's an awesome song, like, that creates energy that's really positive. So
100%. I feel sorry for today's parents in that regard. Then don't really want your kids listening to, what's her name, Cardigan B, or whatever she's called. Good lord. If you go repeating that kind of stuff, like, oh dear.
But then there's Happy by Pharrell, and then there's there's the Can't Stop the Feeling by Justin Timberlake. Like, those were all rocking out dance songs in preschool. Like, we would just, and then one little boy loved Bruce Springsteen, and he was like, Miss Jill, put on Glory Days, and he'd like rock out to Glory Days, and I'd just be like, how do you even know this song? And his mom came to me after school and was like, I did not introduce him to Bruce Springsteen. I do not know why he knows Bruce Springsteen. She goes, I don't know if he saw it on YouTube. Like, I don't know. And then he was like, but he requested it every day at lunch. He's like, Miss Jill, put on Glory Days. They're Born in the USA. Or like, you never know what's going to resonate. And like, and music is timeless. So like, you can have, like, I have a, what's the name of the song? Pink Floyd. I don't remember, but it was
Another Brick in the Wall.
I can't think of it, but it was like a song that I would listen to my senior year of high school. So every time I hear it, I'm like, it reminds me of the carpool I had with the two freshmen in the back of my car holding my coffee, my boyfriend in the side, and like blasting that song going to school. And like another song that I loved was Song 2 by Blur.
Oh yes.
Like, woohoo! too. Dun, 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 dun. Like, I remember being a cheerleader, and when we would win a football game, I would literally ride around in my car in the parking lot and like blast that. Like, and this guy that had a crush on me that was on the football team went to Sam Goody that day and like bought the CD for me, so I would have it in my car. So, but like, yeah, like those musics, those anthems, those themes, like I know we talked about previously, like, who doesn't know We Are the Champions? Like, every kid knows that one.
Yeah.
Every sporting event plays it, like, and everybody gets riled up when they hear it, and it's like, it's from what, 1970, 80 something, like, but everybody knows it, and it's like, you know, they may not know who Freddie Mercury is, but you know, they know that song. And just a funny story, I picked somebody up in Connecticut. I was driving to New England for an academy of energy medicine and like Reiki and stuff. And this one girl came from California, and she's like, can you pick me up in Connecticut? And because that's where she flew into. I was like, yeah. So I picked her up from Connecticut, and I'm like blasting Aerosmith, because I always blast Aerosmith when I drive, because it's great blasting music.
Yeah.
And Dude Looks Like a Lady came on. And she's like, oh, she goes, this is the Miss Doubtfire song.
Yeah.
And I went,
oh dear.
And I was like, she goes, yeah, that movie made this song famous. And I was like, okay, do you know who Aerosmith is? And she's like, who? I'm like, Tyler. She's like, no. I'm like, do you know Liv Tyler? Like, she's been in Lord of the Rings. You remember her? And she's like, yeah, I know that actress. And I'm like, okay, well,
work from there.
And I was like, and this is a major rock band that's been around and is still kicking. So you need, like, I schooled her on the history of Aerosmith and like all the things. And she's like, I just thought it was the Miss Doubtfire song. And I was like, oh God, you know, but
well, I mean, it is. That's a lot of people's entry to these kind of songs, right? And you know, you mentioned song 2. I'm always marveled at sometimes why and how these songs came about. And Damon Albarn, who's the singer, said that literally we wrote that as a band as the kind of antithesis or riposte to the grunge wave that America was exporting over, if you will, to England. So the likes of Nirvana and Pearl Jam, these kind of things, like massive
grunge movement
and very deep and meaning lyrics and sound and feel. He's like, you know, what if I could distill all that down to 2 minutes? So that's why you got this repeated chord progression, not much of a melody, and the lyrics make no sense. I've read 3 different interpretations as what he's actually singing. But
isn't Jumbo like in that song? I got my head checked by
a Jumbo Jet. It wasn't easy, but nothing is, and it kicked off here. It's been used in now, adverts, football games, but it got I think on a lot of people's nerves that you mentioned that you sang it while you're a cheerleader sometimes, right? So I remember during COVID when obviously crowds couldn't attend football matches, but they carried on with professional sport behind closed doors. So you'd have the game played in empty stadiums, but whenever someone scored a goal, you'd play a bit of song 2 out loud as if the crowd was there. And it's like all the players would kind of look around going, really? Again? And because every match, every goal, and you're like, okay.
Oh my God, that's so funny.
Like, okay, yeah, good song, but it's like, right, it's getting a bit, annoying now. And I think, well, that song itself was what, 25 years old. God, that's aging. Yeah. But Blur themselves just previous weekend played 2 massive concerts at Wembley. So these bands, etc., are still around.
Yeah, and that's the beauty of it. Like it's like I think Willie Nelson said our future generations are gonna have to figure out what they're gonna leave to Keith Richards, because like that man is timeless and will never die. But like
it's so true.
It's
so true.
And I remember we talked about the quote of Dave Grohl said, I can play a song for 85,000 people and 85,000 people are going to sing it back for a different reason. Like having those moments, having those relationships with songs. And I always, since I was like out of the womb, like dating, whatever, like I always had a boyfriend. I always had this, and I was like, we need a song. Like we need to have a song.
Yeah.
And to this day, I'm 43. Like I'm still doing that when I'm dating. Like I'm just like, no, we need a song to like tell like about our
capture this.
And,
Yeah,
capture this moment. And it's funny because it's just like it could be anything. And but when I hear those songs, like I think of those people or best friends or concerts that you went to together. I had one friend,
can you give us some examples? Like they sound really quite strong.
So like I loved, they're the Chicks now, but when they were the Dixie Chicks in the 90s, they had the song Cowboy Take Me Away. And I always associated that with leaving college, like just finding somebody that you can just go and lay down on the grass with and just have a picnic and have a great day. And so like I loved like, and then like there's so many songs that I relate to things. So Beautiful Day by U2.
Yeah.
I wasn't supposed to graduate on time. I was determined to graduate on time. I got very sick my junior year of college, and like I had to come home, and like I had to come home to New Jersey. I went to Boston University, and so when I went back to Boston for my senior year, and I was like determined, I was like, that's it. I'm going to do all the things. I remember when I had my gown on and I'm walking into Nickerson Field. I don't even remember the name of it. I think that's what it's called. But it was all of us in the procession going to graduation, like walking to our seats, and Beautiful Day was blasting.
Nice.
So every time I hear that song, I think of how proud I was of myself that day that I could graduate on time and get all my classes done so I could walk in graduation. So like,
what an amazing anchor.
I mean, yeah. And like, there's like my first boyfriend ever when I was 13. I loved Chicago at the time. Right. I don't know why in 1993 I loved Chicago, but You're the Inspiration, such a freaking cheesy song. But every time I hear that song, I think of him, and I'm like, oh my God, I was 13. But like, that's such a powerful song. That's like a wedding song. Like that's not something that a 13-year-old should attach to her, puppy love. But I did.
Hey, it all counts.
Yeah, and then like, oh my God, there's this Kenny Chesney song, a country song called "You've Had Me at Hello." You've had me from Hello, and that was my wedding song to my first husband's. And I was listening to country yesterday in my car, and I put it on random. I just said like, play Kenny Chesney Apple Music because like I want to hear Kenny Chesney songs. And that song came on, and I literally have not heard that song in 18 years since that day.
Wow.
And it actually, I was like, okay, so I associate this with my wedding, my first husband. I have so many husbands. No, I've been married and divorced twice, but with my first husband, that song, I had a best friend who's a singer, and he recorded it. He recorded "You Had Me at Hello" for the wedding. Like my wedding favor was a CD. So my father sang Edelweiss on that CD because he would sing that to me when I was little. My mother sang the Elvis song. She sang it to my dad on their wedding day. I can't remember the name of it. Can't Help Falling in Love. So my mom sang that one on the CD. I sang a Dixie Chicks song, If I Fall, You're Coming Down With Me. And my sisters sang, I think, the Shania Twain From This Moment. So the CD was our wedding favor. And,
That's
kind
amazing.
of like when my marriage fell apart, I kind of just put it on the shelf and like didn't think about it. But when I was driving in my car for 3 hours yesterday, coming from a camping trip, and I heard You Had Me from Hello, like it brought back making the CD with my family, my best friend singing it while we were dancing at our wedding. Like it was just like such an awesome memory, and I literally got chills, and I was like, wow, okay, that's different. Like I wasn't expecting to hear that, but and that's when I would teach my kids, like you feel the music, like when you get chills when you hear certain harmonies, whether it's Andrea Bocelli or Miley Cyrus, it doesn't matter. There's something about that feeling of getting chills and like resonating that just feels so good. And like that's what I want people to remember for music. Like that's what I was trying to teach with the kids, that you're supposed to feel it. So
and do you know, it doesn't even matter how many times you've listened to it either. You might know it backwards, you might know every note, you might know every part of the song. But as you said, it only takes a snippet for you to hear. It doesn't have to be the beginning. It can be something right in the middle. And again, it just brings back that memory or the event or that person. That was essentially the crux of the show, was just to explore these anchors and the ones that you shared about. What an amazing idea, by the way. Actually, where's my notepad? I should write that down about making this wedding favor. Yeah, exactly. No, I've never even heard of that as an idea. But yeah, definitely something I could consider. But
totally.
one thing at a time, right?
because like, yeah, I mean, I just associated certain songs with like, I remember my dad singing Edelweiss to me when I was little, and my grandfather, actually, I never met him. He died before I was born,
Mm.
but he was an Irish tenor on the radio in New York City in the 1920s, and so I have such a deep connection to spirit, being what I do for a living, that like when I was singing by myself, when I was singing a solo or performing when I was a kid, I would take my grandfather's ring and put it around and put it on a necklace and have it, because it felt like if I had his spirit with me that I could sing better. So it's just like, and that's another thing, like people associate certain songs with like the memory of their friends who have passed, or like I was talking about Hoagie in the beginning. Like when I hear You Don't Know How It Feels, I picture him standing in my pool with his guitar. He was standing on the steps on the 4th of July with his cowboy hat on, playing You Don't Know How It Feels, and the whole party singing with him. Like that is a memory I will never forget. And it's just like, and when we would sing it out, like that was what was in my mind when I was singing it. Like that's the memory that was in my mind. And then like me feeling the music, like they always say you need to feel it when you perform it, because then the people that are listening feel that feeling.
100%.
It's like the vibration gets, like they resonate with that vibration, and then like you feel that. And every time we sang Tom Petty's Wildflowers, I would dedicate it to my friend Melissa, whose father died, and that was his song for her. And it's a beautiful song. It's not sad, but if I looked in the audience and I saw Melissa, she'd be crying, because that was the anchor for her dad. So it's like providing those experiences too. Like it's so therapeutic, you know, like who doesn't, when they're pissed off, want to go in their room and blast their music, like, or get in their car and scream and like blast Free Fallin' or whatever it may be, you know? Yeah, I mean,
what songs or music or bands do you use for that emotion of
for rage?
Call it rage.
I 9 Inch Nails or Prodigy. The Prodigy for me.
The Prodigy. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
Like,
go on. Which ones?
Oh my God. I mean, it wasn't politically correct then, but Smack My Bitch Up. Remember that one?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, and Head Like a Hole was like my rage one. Like, black as your soul, I'd rather die than give you control. I'd be like, yeah. And my mom's like, that's not music.
Yeah, that's different to Walking on Sunshine, I'll tell you that one.
Exactly. I remember that. I remember blasting 9 Inch Nails and my mom being like, that just sounds like noise. And I was like, it's genius. It's amazing.
If I had a pound for every time someone said that sounds like noise when I've played something I know,
right?
I'd have a lot of pounds.
9 Inch Nails concert in 1994 when I was 14.
Oh, wow.
And, you know, I was my friend, he brought me to a record store. I was the new girl in town. I didn't know anything. I didn't know anyone because we had just moved. And he was like, he took me under his wing and he's like, I'm going to bring you to the record store and I'm going to introduce you to this music. And he introduced me to 9 Inch Nails and he introduced me to a bunch of different things. And he's like, I want to take you to a 9 Inch Nails concert. And this kid's mom was like, yeah, let's go. Like, she was a cool mom. And I remember I had my black lipstick on and I had my mini skirt and my thigh highs and my midriff shirt and I looked awesome. And I'm 14, by the way. And we go into New York City on the train, and it's like this like adventure going to the 9 Inch Nails concert. Marilyn Manson was opening for them, and that's before he even became very big. And I remember we were walking down the street, and I was so excited because I didn't know what to expect. I knew this was like, you know, old like 20-something music, like it's not teenager music. And this guy came up to me, and he's like, "Hey, can I try on your lipstick?" And I looked at him, and I'm like, "I'm 14," and he was like, "And I'm out of here."
Check, please. I'm off.
But like I remember feeling like an adult, and so when I hear like 9 Inch Nails, Pretty Hate Machine, or I blast that when I'm driving, like I'm just like, oh, this is what I used to listen to when I was really upset when I was a kid. So or like when I was, you know, upset or pissed at a boy, or you know, my best friend did something shitty, like I'd like blast, you know, I'd rather die than give you control, you know, like it was just an anthem.
The reason I just picked rage as an emotion there is that, you know, I think people may have a sense of shying away from that almost, of like, you know, you mentioned the Prodigy, for example, or 9 Inch Nails, which, you know, on the face of it are louder bands, maybe more controversial in terms of topics they cover or lyrics or whatever. Right. And it's like, it's like when it appeals to our base emotion, which we sometimes don't even proactively articulate. So it's like we're not actively looking to listen to a song for the first time or a band for that reason. But
Right.
something you might hear it on, a friend suggests to you, or you say go into a record shop, or download the song or whatever nowadays. But
Right.
something strikes up inside you. You want to hear it again, and I akin it to the idea that your subconscious has twigged that, like, that's what I mean. That's what I resonate with. What's that?
Yeah.
Let's link more of that. And I used to be, and probably still am a little bit, a bit of a music snob. The idea that only rock and roll matters, sod everything else. If you listen to it, you're kind of wrong. Because, what came from me was the idea that, like, well, I was very much looking for others to listen to what I used to. So you get a sense of validation, acceptance, and that social aspect of it.
Right.
But as time wore on, you're like, I can still enjoy what I enjoy. And that's expanding here and there where it needs to, in the sense that, there are those that, maybe yourself, who are like a big eclectic listeners, wide range of genres.
Oh, I'm everything. I'm jazz, I'm classical, all the things. Like, I have a ton of music range.
Yeah, but I'm more like, do you know what? I stick to kind of what I know, but I can also have more of an appreciation now for, like, well, if someone's into that genre, okay, great. I'm not here to change them or say that they're wrong. And if anything, it's come back to the point of the show. There's so much sharing you can do about it. You might be into hip hop or R&B or Bollywood or whatever,
country,
great.
or whatever.
Exactly. But behind that are your songs, your emotions, your this. So the more you share about, well, I think a lot of it nowadays is like, if you're not in with the in crowd. Like, I think there's two things. If you're not in with the in crowd, in the sense of, like, if you're not like what everybody else likes, then there's still that distinction of, like, well, you don't like X. Okay, I'm not going to communicate with you. Or there's an apathy. I'm seeing not many people have a conversation about, have you, what kind of music are you still into? I mentioned last time we were setting this up, as a singleton, I often ask on singles events, the first question is, what kind of music are you into?
Music, yep.
And they look at me as if I've just, asked them to explain quantum physics or something like that.
Right, and they're like, I don't know. I'm like, how is music not a part of your life? Like, next.
Yeah, or like, oh, I like everything. Yeah, but okay. I always see it as like it's a platform that you could spring off. And look, there are some I've even heard of, like, I'm not really into music. Okay, but all I'm trying to get there is like, more often than not, you'll find that people have a link to a song or event, but I think a lot of it is almost not drowned out today, but it's like, people, when you ask them, there doesn't seem to be a strong enthusiasm or opinion. It's like, you've heard of a song or band, yeah, they're all right. Or if you are so enthused about an artist or whatever, then you don't find a lot of other people in a lot of supply that want to talk to you about it. Yes, there's online forums of, fellow fans and all this kind of stuff. But when it comes to, like, conversations like, this nature, it's like, well, then, a part of me thinks, well, is this about like almost where you were in time type thing? Like today, actually, I read this article online that there's a lot of festivals and bands, because it's summer in it. Well, it's meant to be summer in England at the moment, but it's just cloud. They're talking about festivals that are dedicated to 90s and the noughties music and fashion, and the wider discussion point is like, are those decades making a comeback? Why does it seem to be in conversational vogue at the moment? As I said, a lot of 90s bands are coming back to perform. Blur came back, Pulp came back, Spice Girls recently did a tour and all that kind of thing. And the same vein continues, and a lot of them were talking about that. You hear that music, and literally what we were talking about, they think of, oh, I had my first date to that song, I had my first snog to that song, or whatever it might be, and it's like, that's what I mean. So when you have that enthusiasm and natural attraction to that, it's like that's as you said, we could talk about it for ages.
I mean, just an example, like, I have a friend, I'm going to a Dave Matthews Band concert tomorrow night, And I loved him like in 1998 when I first went to his concert and he had his first CD. But I kind of got away from him. But my best friend Danielle loves Dave Matthews and like follows them. Like we'll go to Indiana, we'll go like drive 10 hours and like go to a concert there.
Nice.
And so I was just like, I don't know a lot of his new stuff. We did go to a concert at Madison Square Garden in New York last year. And I realized like a lot of what he was singing, I didn't know, but oh my God, the amount of artistry in that band. And they invited Saturday Night Live's brass section for one of the songs. And I looked at her and like the audience was kind of like they were just jamming. Like they were like, oh my God, we have all this talent on stage. Let's all just do whatever the fuck we want. And I looked at her and I was just like, they are enjoying this so much. Like you could tell the musicians did not care what MSG thought. They didn't care what the audience thought. They were like, we're in here, their element. We're doing the thing. And so I was driving a lot this past couple days, traveling and like going on vacations and stuff. And I just texted my friend Danielle and I'm like, I know there's a million Dave Matthews songs. I was like, I want you to text me every single one of your favorites so I can make a playlist so I can get familiar with those. So when I hear them with you at the concert tomorrow, I will know the songs and I can like have that experience with you. Like I want
That's amazing.
That to happen. I just wanted all of her favorites and I was just like, so if he sings this one, if he sings that one, I want to be able to sing along with you and have that bond, So I
love that. I've genuinely never heard someone do that before. The idea that, you're taking what's going to be a shared experience anyway. You're both going to a gig and you want to augment that beforehand by going, right, send me your favorites. I want to get into it. And I want to enjoy it even more than I would be anyway. I've genuinely never heard that. That's brilliant. More people should do that.
Well, because like I've been driving for long. Like I was an hour and a half away for the weekend for camping, and then I drove down the shore so that was a 3-hour trip. And I said to my dad hates driving, and he's like, just be careful, like make sure your oil's checked, make sure you got enough gas. And he's like, why do you like driving so much? I'm like, because that's when I can listen to all my music. And if I have a playlist from my friend of like 15 Dave Matthews songs, I'm going to play it over and over again until I know every note. So when I go to that concert, like I'll know. And like, it'll be that much more of a fun experience. And my dad was just like, but he's like, it's so exhausting, like driving and like 3 hours at a time. And like, and I was just like, but if you associate it with something that's positive, it's not a chore. Like I'm excited to go driving. I'm driving to Vermont on Thursday to go to this music festival, and the one that they want me to sing at. And I'm like, oh my God. And I can't wait for that drive because I can't wait to now listen to the Dave Matthews list after seeing it in concert tomorrow and remembering and having those memories. Like it's just like I don't have any memories associated with that playlist yet, but tomorrow I will make them.
It's one of the best moments you could have musically, I think. If you're a fan and you've been to a concert and you're walking out and your ears are still ringing and you've got the natural buzz of having witnessed your band or a band for best part of 2 hours, the whole crowd is walking out with you, sharing the same moments, taking some last photos and this kind of thing. And already your brain is trying to remember as much as it can through all the high pitch in your ears. You're looking at your phone. What have I caught? Because I know there's a lot of this whole holding a camera up. It's like, to each their own.
That's annoying, but yeah, I get it.
Yeah. I mean, whatever you've caught on your phone, whatever. And I'm like you. I'm for one I get home and I'm like, has anyone put like the show up on YouTube or somewhere yet? Was it there? Did I see what I saw? And especially if it's things like rare songs or a unique take or whatever it might be,
right?
It's like
the way they played it that they never played before.
Exactly.
Like they made it acoustic or something.
And you want to because you want to revisit it because obviously everything's there, but you want to revisit it and hopefully someone's got better quality than you because you realise your crappy old phone may have not taken the great thing.
The best.
There are some, real people there that have professional stuff on them. They can record really high quality stuff. And I mentioned before that, like, that kind of even talking about gigs of like,
Yeah.
I went to a gig and sharing it,
Yeah.
the last I went to see Coldplay last year at Wembley Stadium.
Okay.
I'm personally, I can do with Coldplay. They're all right, there's this sort of antipathy in England towards them in general, I think, because they're a bit kind of a, maybe seen as a bit of a wet band, if you will. Wet in the sense of like a bit soppy, a bit kind of, that kind of thing. But my cousin in India, she's a huge fan. Like, Coldplay is life and this kind of thing. So I'm like, okay, look, I'll go along. It's Wembley's not that far from me, so I can just go.
That's great.
Go and enjoy it. And it was a fantastic show. I knew a fair few songs, but just the visual, the visuals they did. You mentioned these bands put on a show and are in their element. They went on for probably a good 2 hours or so. But and obviously I shared it with her along the way. Going live a bit on social media just to help her see all this kind of stuff. And but the whole, the idea that you're, you saw again an example of music unifying people. Personally it was between me and my cousin, but then you had 100,000 people around you there for the same kind of thing. And I remember straight afterwards I rang someone quite special in my life, and she's not into their music. I had to introduce her, but you're just so keen to share is what I mean, of like your
like,
experience.
This feeling, I want to capture this feeling,
literally
put it in a bottle and associate it with this song.
Yeah. And or it's the whole, you've had this experience and it brings you back to previous experiences. This wasn't my first gig at Wembley, it was my third time. And you just think back to previous times when I've been, so my previous time was 2009 to watch Oasis, front row standing for 6 hours on end. And I'll quickly give the story of like I was probably half a meter away from giving Liam Gallagher my sunglasses, because they were in like the so I've got some like John Lennon style sunglasses, and during the last song the rest of the band are on stage playing the outro because the vocals are finished, so Liam hops down, walks along the front, and he gets to where I was standing, and I had no clue I was going to do this out of nowhere. I literally, as he came like honed into view, I literally took off my glasses and sort of reached out. I do not know why. I wasn't planning on it, and this is the days before smartphones, so I had my little camera on me, and you could see him where, like in the video, you could see him clearly. He's standing in front of me, but he's looking up and beyond me because I'm not that tall,
Right.
So I'm like, Liam, like trying to get his attention, and then as he looks down, there was a shorter lady stood in front of me. And he sort of interacted with her instead, and only for a few seconds, and then he hopped off. And like, if he'd just seen the camera, he might have seen it. But like, just those memories come back.
Definitely.
And this is what I think. The joy of gigs is sometimes something so difficult to put your finger on, yet you could talk so much about it. It's one of those last defining, unifying experiences, as you mentioned with the great Dave Grohl quote before. You've got your own experience, and all the others will have their completely different one as well. Sorry, you were saying.
But everybody's singing. I was actually, my friend who passed away in April, for his memorial, we are having a music festival in his honor, and we're all singing music that he would. So like all the music he would sing at gigs, like they all reached, like our musician friends reached out to me. They're like, Jill, send us your set list for when you sang with him, because we want every single one of his friends that's musical to get on that stage at some point in the day and sing a song for him. And so that's what we're doing to honor him. And
brilliant.
That's going to happen in 2 weeks. And I'm super excited because I'm going to be singing songs I would only sing with him with like 3 other people. And like, it's going to be its own memory. It's going to be its own experience. So
brilliant. I mean, if there's a way you could, like, I don't know, live stream it somehow or something, that'd be...
Oh, I think somebody is. I think that's all getting taken care of.
Excellent.
But yeah, it's just like music brings people together, and that's what his legacy was, and that's what I feel like just talking to you about music. Like, I've never met you in person. You're all the way in London. I'm in New Jersey. And like, I saw you talking about this topic. I'm like, I need to be on that show. I was like, I need to do that. And it was just like, and like, I may never meet you in person, but at least we have this commonality. And the fact that I brought up song 2 and you knew the whole history, like, those are happy accidents. Those are like the synchronicities that really make music a thing. So I just wanted to thank you for that. So
my pleasure. And to be honest, when I first read your response, so quick shout out to people that are watching or listening to this. If you want to be a guest like Jill, the sign up link is, well, wherever you're reading it, in the comments on podcast platform, YouTube, wherever it is. But when I read Jill's sort of request, I'm like, first guest for sure. And it was so clear from both that response and then the quick setup we had. We talked about for 40 minutes much of what we've spoken today. And I say it comes back to the whole idea that it's such a unifying, impactful thing that, like, in the spirit of sharing and enjoying and hopefully inspiring people, that ultimately that's what podcasts may be about. That's the kind of thing at the moment, but also the idea of communication and sharing. And as Jill pointed out, we might not physically meet in person, but now we've already got that contact through music. I akin it to one of my other great loves of sport, where you could walk into any old bar or public place or wherever, have nothing in common, have no idea who people are, but the minute you twig that you might be sports fans of the same team, that's it.
That's all it takes.
You share that bond, an unbreakable bond, and some things that only you will get with each other. I can meet any Liverpool fan and ask, tell me your Istanbul story, and that's it. They know what it means. I know what it means. No other context needed, and that's it. That and music is something that unlike sport, which is quite tribalistic, and can be quite divisive at times depending on your angle. Music is there for everybody. Yeah, absolutely. And there is debate, always ongoing about what might be the better style. Everybody liking the same thing, or even the whole today there's the idea that being an independent band or an artist is so difficult to get onto the industry in the first place because of all these maybe talent show outlets on TV that take the room instead, or how costly it is to get going. But then again, if you look at all I look at the stories of all the great bands that have ever been, right? The Beatles, Queen, Oasis, the Stones, Johnny Cash, if you've seen those great biopics, right? They all started off as either a group of friends that came together at university or wherever, and somewhere along the line, there was a lucky break somewhere. Of course. All for them, it was just about...
but they were proactive about it. It's not like they just made it, like wanted it to happen. It was like they put themselves in places that were out of their comfort zone, out of where they usually would be, and somebody heard it that made a difference. Like there's so many stories that way.
I mean, I put up a clip on one of my channels the other day. It was an interview snippet from Noel Gallagher, who talked about his kind of history as a songwriter, and he went, look, he goes, I'm not the best looking, I've got hands like a midget, but anyone, if I can do it, any fucker can do it. Because he said, you just got to have the self-belief, Star Wars level of self-belief. And funny enough, that kind of a quote, I had multiple bands and artists I look up to saying, look, if we can do it, anyone can. That's what inspired me to pick the guitar up at 18 years old, pre-YouTube, all the video advice you could get. Literally, for me, it was buy a dead basic guitar, find a page on Google that just said, right, this is the neck, this is how you tune it, and this kind of thing. And as luck would happen, I started a band with my friends at the same time, again out of fluke. We were around someone's house one day in the evening, in the garden, and I happened to mention I'm learning guitar, and my friend sat next to me, and he went around the whole garden pointing at people going, well, he can sing, he knows everything, he can drum, he could do bass. I play. You're playing. Why don't we
Here
just
we are.
literally? Why don't we just get together and jam? And we did. We had a brilliant summer filled with we just all get together in a rehearsal room for nights on end. We made a mini album of about 6-7 songs, all self-penned from God knows where.
Oh my God, that's awesome.
And we did a gig to about 20 people. I say 20 people, I mean hecklers mostly. Hilarious for many reasons, not least for just forgetting like what we were doing at one point. Like we probably didn't practice enough as a gig playing band, so like we'd all be going at different paces, and we'd look at each other going, no, you meant to come like but recorded for posterity was so funny. But obviously then life took over, and we all
Right.
uni came over and we had to go. But it was such a joyous time, if we could do that.
I can imagine.
And I just for me, I just carried on myself, just writing and playing and hoping to be the next Noel at some point. But Jill, I wanted to just wrap this up. This question came to me just as we're talking. If you could create a soundtrack or playlist for our listeners or viewers, it could be, I was going to say 3 to 5 songs, but I'm like, do you know what? I'll leave it up to you to project or showcase yourself, your emotions, or whatever criteria you want it. Share your soundtrack with people.
I would love that. That's a great idea, because that's what I tell people all the time. Like, show me your music, tell me what you love, because then I'll understand you a little bit better. So I would love to do that. I can totally do that. I can put it in the comments when it's posted, and people can get a little piece of what I love. So that'd be awesome.
Yeah, please do. And that, to be honest, that's something that just came to me now, and something that I think would be a nice sort of takeaway for people, because as you said, like when you're asking for people to introduce you to their music, and you've got so many ideas and thoughts, and what you could do is, like, if someone could watch this show or listen to the show and then have an idea of, like, all right, what can I get into, that might be the gateway for them to find all the new music and all that. So wow, an hour has gone just like that.
Super fast.
It's so far, and I've got so many more questions to ask, etc. But you know what, that might be for another episode, I think, because as I said, we could go on for ages on this. But
totally.
Look, that is our hour today. Jill, thank you so much for being the first guest on. A real pleasure to have you on, and would definitely like to get you back on the show at some point.
I would love that. That'd be awesome. And thank you so much for the opportunity to be here. So
my pleasure. Thank you all for listening and watching, and we shall catch you on the next one. Feel supersonic. Thank you so much for checking out this episode of Soundtrack of Your Life. Please do like and comment with your thoughts below, subscribe to the channel, and sign up to be on the show. Feel supersonic.